This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Presenting petitions. The Honourable Member for Park for Saskatchewan. He was first.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Hopefully there will be time for other members to present petitions by the time I'm finished. I do have a number of petitions to present to the House today. The first petition is in support of parents being able to make decisions about their own families without the interference of the federal government. Petitioners call attention to how the Liberal government is trying to involve itself in decisions that should properly be made by parents and by provinces. These petitioners particularly reference the policy in New Brunswick of having parental consent involving the changing of names and pronouns for students under 16. Petitioners note that in the vast majority of cases, parents care about the well-being of their children and love them much more than any state-run institutions, and the role of government is to support families and respect parents, not to dictate how they should make decisions for their children. Petitioners therefore call on the Government of Canada to butt out and let parents raise their own children. The next petition is in support of a private member's Bill C-257 that would add political belief and activity as prohibited grounds of discrimination in the Canadian Human Rights Act. Petitioners note that Canadians should be free from political discrimination, that this reflects a broad opposition to Canadians facing arbitrary discrimination, but also protecting people from political discrimination ensures that Canadians will be able to express themselves on important issues of the day without fear of employment or other reprisals. Petitioners call on the House, therefore, to support Bill C-257. The next petition responds to a policy of this government that would restrict access to natural health products that Canadians rely on every day for their health and safety. Petitioners note that Liberals are threatening access to natural health products through new rules that would mean higher costs and fewer products available on the shelf, and that so-called cost recovery provisions would impose massive costs on all consumers of natural health products and undermine Canadian access to these products. Petitioners call on the Government of Canada to reverse the changes made in the last Liberal budget regarding natural health products. The fourth and final petition that I will be tabling today is regarding the ongoing persecution of Falun Gong practitioners in the PRC. Petitioners draw attention to a decades-long campaign of persecution targeting Falun Gong practitioners and call on the Government of Canada to do more to support Falun Gong practitioners and all those facing persecution, violence, and human rights violations within the PRC. Thank you very much.
Presenting petition, the Honourable Member for Yorkton Milton.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. There is a crisis of domestic violence, violent crimes right across Canada, and these petitioners indicate that it's well established within this House that risk of violence against women increases when they're pregnant. Currently, the injury or death of a preborn child as a victim of crime is not considered aggravating circumstances for sentencing purposes in our criminal code. You know, Canada, they say, is only one of all the countries in the world that has no abortion laws, and this legal void is so extreme in this House that it doesn't recognize preborn children as victims of violent crimes. And justice requires that an attacker who abuses a pregnant woman and her preborn child must be sentenced accordingly, and the sentence should match the crime. So they are calling on this House of Commons to legislate the abuse of a pregnant woman and or the infliction of harm on a preborn child as aggravating circumstances for sentencing purposes in the criminal code. And Madam Speaker, one more, individuals as well are very concerned about sexually explicit material, demeaning material, depicting sexual violence that can easily be accessed on the internet by young people. Young people as young as 8 sitting at a computer. A significant proportion of the sexually explicit material is made available for commercial purposes, and it's not protected by any effective age verification method. Anyone who makes sexually explicit material available on the internet for commercial purposes has a responsibility to ensure that it is not accessed by young persons, and online age verification was a primary recommendation made by stakeholders during a 2017 study by the Standing Committee on Health, and so they call upon the House of Commons to adopt Bill S-210, Protecting Young Persons from Exposure to Pornography Act. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member for Dauphin, Swan River, Nipawin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to present a petition on behalf of constituents. Madam Speaker, I rise for the 33rd time on behalf of the people of Swan River, Manitoba, to present a petition on the rising rate of crime. The community of Swan River is overwhelmed with the alarming levels of crime because of this Liberal government's soft on crime laws like Bill C-5 and Bill C-75. Jail has become a revolving door for repeat offenders, as Bill C-75 allows violent offenders to be in jail in the morning and back on the street the same day. And Bill C-5 allows criminals to serve their sentences from home. The people of Swan River are calling for jail, not bail, for violent repeat offenders. Madam Speaker, the people of Swan River demand that this Liberal government repeal their soft on crime policies that directly threaten their livelihoods and their community. I support the good people of Swan River.
Member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to present two petitions. The first one is geared towards assisting in the recruitment of volunteer firefighters, and it calls on, it is from undersigned citizens and residents of Canada, calling on the Government of Canada to support Bill C-310 and enact amendments to the Income Tax Act, subsections 118.06, subbracket 2, and 118.07, subbracket 2, those portions of the Income Tax Act, in order to increase the amount of tax credits available for volunteer firefighters and search and rescue volunteers from $3,000 to $10,000 per year. The second petition I rise on today from 69 residents of the North Okanagan Shuswap, calling on the Government of Canada and the House of Commons to give citizens a voice on the subject of electoral reform and the right to make recommendations, and to support motion M86 calling for a citizens' assembly on electoral reform. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Saanich Silence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm rising today with a petition of deep concern to residents of Saanich Islands, and I dare say of all of our ridings across Canada, with the crisis of home affordability. The petitioners point out that key problems that have caused the problem, the causes of rising home costs, have to do with the financialization of homes, treating housing as an investment, and worse than that, as a matter of some speculation and gambling, the use of Canada's housing market to launder money and evade taxes. The petitioners call on the Government of Canada to redefine affordable housing, to have an updated formula to better reflect the current economic conditions, to ensure that excess profiteering by corporate interests and real estate investment trusts are brought to heel, to require restrictive covenants on affordable housing that were units built with taxpayer support, to ensure that they're not flipped for personal gain. The petitioners call for a number of very sensible measures to prioritize the funding for nonprofit and co-op housing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my honour to present in both official languages a petition signed by the advocates of a basic income guarantee. The petition calls upon the Government of Canada to begin immediate negotiations with the Government of Prince Edward Island to develop and implement a basic income guarantee demonstration program in the province of PEI that will be administered, monitored, and evaluated for at least 5 years. The petitioners note that the 2020 final report of the PEI Special Committee on Poverty recommended initiating these negotiations. The report has the support of all political parties in PEI. The demonstration program will benefit all of Canada, as poverty is the primary social determinant of health and requires bold and creative approaches to understand and address its root causes and consequences in Canada. Thank you.
The member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to present a petition signed by Canadians. The petitioners observe that for the past 8 years, this Liberal government has put the rights of criminals consistently ahead of the rights of victims, including when this government failed to respond to the Supreme Court's unjust Bissonnette decision that struck down a common-sense Harper law that gave judges the discretion to apply consecutive parole ineligibility periods to murderers convicted of multiple murders to take into account each life lost. The petitioners call on Parliament, as a modest response to the Bissonnette decision, to pass Bill S-281, which would prevent convicted murderers from applying year after year after year for parole after completing their minimum sentence.
The Honourable Member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as you know, one of the fastest growing communities in Canada is our Indo-Canadian community, and through that, along with the wonderful trade and economic ties and personal ties between Canada and India, there's been an increased demand for direct flights between Canada and India. I'm tabling a petition of many constituents that would like to be able to see a direct flight from Winnipeg ultimately to India. And at the end of the day, Madam Speaker, I think it's fairly well established that through that wonderful relationship between the two countries and the airliners and the idea of competition, that we will hopefully see more direct flights. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. An honour to rise to present a petition on behalf of folks across Waterloo Region who are calling upon the House of Commons to not only demand an immediate ceasefire in what they call the Israel-Palestine conflict, they also call for Israel to lift the blockade of the Gaza Strip, authorize the creation of a humanitarian corridor, and emergency humanitarian intervention. They go on to call for this House to call for Israel to meet its commitments under the Geneva Convention and international humanitarian law. They go on to call on this House to call for all measures necessary to protect civilian life, both Israeli and Palestinian, and to help foster a climate conducive to building a lasting peace. Thank you.